Welcome to Flash Core, your sharpest source for daily headlines and deep dives. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stay ahead of the curve. In a landmark decision, Australia has officially lifted its two-decade ban on U.S. beef imports, marking a significant shift in the nation's agricultural and trade policy. This move comes after years of careful deliberation and scientific review, reflecting Australia's commitment to both global trade and domestic food safety. The new policy allows beef from cattle processed in the United States, including those born in Canada or Mexico, to enter the Australian market for the first time since the early 2000s. This means Australian consumers and businesses will soon see a wider variety of beef products on supermarket shelves, sourced from North America's vast cattle industry. By opening its doors, Australia is bringing its import protocols in line with other major Asia-Pacific nations such as Japan and South Korea, both of which have already established robust trade in U.S. beef. This harmonization is expected to strengthen Australia's position in the region and foster closer economic ties with key trading partners. The government is quick to clarify that this decision is not a political concession to the United States but rather a technical update grounded in the latest scientific risk assessments. Years of research and consultation with food safety experts have paved the way for this change, ensuring that public health remains the top priority. Officials emphasize that Australia's renowned biosecurity measures remain firmly in place. Every shipment of imported beef will be subject to the same rigorous inspections and hygiene protocols as local products, maintaining the high standards that Australian consumers expect and trust. Advanced traceability systems and comprehensive safety checks will be mandatory for all U.S. beef entering the country. From farm to fork, every step will be monitored to ensure transparency and accountability, preserving public confidence in the safety and quality of Australia's food supply. The government's messaging is clear and consistent. This decision is rooted in science and safety, not in response to trade pressure or diplomatic negotiations. Officials are working to communicate these facts to the public, aiming to dispel any concerns about the integrity of Australia's food system. This policy shift represents a modernization of Australia's trade relationships, opening new avenues for economic cooperation while maintaining the integrity of the nation's robust biosecurity framework. It's a step forward that balances innovation with caution. The challenge now is to balance this new openness to international trade with the ongoing protection of Australia's world-class cattle industry. Local producers and rural communities are watching closely, seeking assurance that their livelihoods and Australia's agricultural reputation will remain secure. The government is focused on reassuring both the public and producers that national standards are not negotiable. Through open forums, direct engagement with farmers, and transparent communication, officials are working to build trust and address any lingering doubts. Ultimately, Australia's approach signals a careful, science-driven update to its import rules, not a weakening of its protective stance. By prioritizing evidence-based policy and maintaining strict oversight, Australia aims to set a global example for safe, responsible, and forward-thinking food trade. Former U.S. President Donald Trump wasted no time in stepping into the spotlight, quickly claiming credit for Australia's recent decision regarding beef imports. With his signature bravado, Trump took to the stage at rallies and press conferences, making it clear that he saw this development as a direct result of his administration's hardline approach to international trade. He framed the outcome as a resounding win for his tough trade policies, suggesting that his willingness to play hardball on the global stage had forced Australia's hand. Trump presented the move as a major victory for American farmers and ranchers, emphasizing that his administration's persistent pressure on Australia had finally paid off. He argued that this would open new doors for U.S. beef producers, boost rural economies, and strengthen America's position in the global agricultural market. However, this triumphant narrative stands in stark contrast to Australia's official stance. Australian leaders and officials have repeatedly insisted that the change was based on scientific evidence and domestic regulatory reviews, not on pressure from Washington. They emphasized that their decision was rooted in protecting public health and maintaining high food safety standards. The United States has long pushed for greater access to Australia's lucrative agricultural market, with beef exports being a particularly contentious issue. For years, negotiations have been tense, with both sides seeking to protect their own industries and interests. While Trump's claims of victory play well with his domestic audience, they risk creating diplomatic friction. Australia, keen to assert its independence and maintain its reputation for regulatory integrity, bristles at the suggestion that it bowed to foreign pressure. This episode highlights how political narratives can often overshadow the complex technical realities of trade policy. Media coverage and political spin can shape public perception, sometimes at the expense of the nuanced truth. For Trump, the decision serves as a political trophy, proof in his eyes of his effectiveness on the world stage. For Australia, however, the focus remains on upholding regulatory standards and making decisions based on science and national interest. Ultimately, this clash reveals the underlying tensions that can arise even between close allies when trade, politics, and national pride intersect. It's a reminder that in the world of international relations, victories are rarely as clear-cut as they seem. Experts across the agricultural and retail sectors agree that lifting the U.S. beef ban will have little effect on the everyday experience of Australian shoppers. While the policy change has made headlines, its real-world impact is expected to be minimal, especially when it comes to what Australians find in their local supermarkets. The shelves and fridges in Australian supermarkets will continue to be stocked with the familiar, high-quality beef that consumers know and trust. For most shoppers, the range of beef products available will look much the same as before, with little noticeable difference in selection or price. Australia's cattle industry is not only robust and self-sufficient, but it also enjoys a deep-rooted loyalty from consumers who value local produce. The country's vast grazing lands and advanced farming practices ensure a steady supply of premium beef, making Australia one of the world's top beef producers. Most of the beef found in stores is sourced from Australian farms, and U.S. imports are unlikely to compete on either price or quality. Local beef is often fresher and better suited to Australian tastes, and the supply chain is shorter, keeping costs down for both retailers and consumers. Any American beef that does make its way onto Australian shelves is expected to fill niche roles, such as in processed foods, specialty products, or fast food chains that have global supply agreements. These products will likely represent only a small fraction of total beef sales. Australian consumers have a strong preference for meat that is locally produced, often seeking out the Product of Australia label. This loyalty makes it difficult for imported beef to gain significant traction, as shoppers are proud to support local farmers and the national industry. While the policy change is symbolically important and may open new trade opportunities, its practical impact on the average shopper will be minimal. Most people will not notice any difference in their weekly shop, and the presence of U.S. beef will be subtle at best. Domestic producers remain dominant in the market, and U.S. beef is expected to play only a minor supplementary role. The strength and reputation of Australia's beef industry ensure that local products will continue to be the first choice for most consumers. So, when it comes to the classic weekly family roast, Australians can rest assured that it will still be made with homegrown beef, supporting local farmers and traditions for years to come. The government is adamant that easing U.S. beef restrictions won't compromise Australia's strict biosecurity standards. These standards protect the environment, agriculture, and public health from foreign pests and diseases. All imported beef must meet rigorous traceability and safety requirements, with no exceptions. Some critics worry biosecurity could become a bargaining chip in trade talks, but officials insist protocols are grounded in science, not politics. The updated rules require full traceability from birth to processing, enabling rapid response to any disease threat. Australia's stance trade will never come at the expense of national safety. Biosecurity remains a shield, not a bargaining tool. Australia's original ban on U.S. beef in 2003 was a direct response to the discovery of mad cow disease in the U.S. The move aimed to protect Australia's cattle herds and consumers, reflecting the country's precautionary approach to biosecurity. Many nations impose similar bans, highlighting the global seriousness of the BSE threat. Over the years, the U.S. invested heavily in eradicating BSE, earning international recognition for its efforts. The World Organization for Animal Health now classifies the U.S. as negligible risk for BSE. This scientific validation paved the way for Australia to reconsider its ban. The lifting of restrictions is the result of years of risk mitigation and improved safety protocols. Australia's decision reflects a changed risk landscape, not a sudden policy reversal. Despite the market opening, U.S. beef exports to Australia will be limited by America's own supply constraints. The U.S. cattle herd is at a 70-year low due to drought, high feed costs, and economic pressures. U.S. producers must prioritize domestic demand and existing export partners, leaving little surplus for Australia. As a result, any U.S. beef entering Australia will be small in scale and targeted at niche markets. Australia remains self-sufficient and a major beef exporter, so local producers aren't worried. The threat of a U.S. beef flood is more theoretical than real. The timing of the policy change coincides with U.S. supply challenges, minimizing its immediate impact. Easing the beef ban has political and trade implications for the Australia-U.S. alliance. Trump's claim of victory politicized the issue, putting Australia in a delicate position. Australia must balance its alliance with the U.S. against the need to protect its regulatory independence. Some politicians warn against letting biosecurity standards become bargaining chips in trade deals. They argue that such decisions must be based on science, not political influence. The episode highlights the tension between trade ambitions and national safety regulations. Australia must reassure its public that national interests come first. This case is a lesson in the complexities of diplomacy and trade in a globalized world. Australia remains committed to world-class food safety and biosecurity even as it opens to U.S. beef. The new rules are based on updated science, not a relaxation of standards. All imported beef faces the same strict inspection and traceability requirements as local meat. Importers must document the full history of each product from birth to processing. This ensures rapid response to any health concerns and maintains consumer confidence. Australia's approach balances open markets with uncompromising safety. The message trade is welcome, but safety is never negotiable. The end of Australia's U.S. beef ban marks a new era in trade between the two countries. It's not simply a trade win or a political concession, but a nuanced balancing act. Australia's science-based approach asserts its sovereignty and protects its biosecurity reputation. The practical impact will be limited, with U.S. beef filling niche roles rather than disrupting local markets. Political narratives may exaggerate the change, but the reality is more measured. Australia shows it's possible to adapt trade rules without sacrificing safety. The decision is about careful calibration, not winners and losers. It's a story of balancing openness with protection, a challenge that will shape future international relations.